Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. The Health Savings Account is a tax-advantaged account designed to help you with out-of-pocket medical expenses. But if you're willing to get a little bit creative, it can be a phenomenal investment vehicle. Now, my goal with this video is to have this video be everything you could possibly want to know about the HSA. And being that I want to cover everything, we're going to cover a lot of the basics first. So if you're really only here to figure out how to use your HSA, not like a traditional HSA, but more like the wealthy, keep in mind the timestamps are linked down below and you can jump to that portion of the video if you wish. Let's first cover the basics of the HSA. The primary intended purpose of the Health Savings Account is to help you cover qualified out-of-pocket medical expenses. This is money that you and an employer would set aside on a pre-tax basis to help you cover medical expenses that are not covered by your health plan. All the money you put in an HSA is yours to keep. There's no use it or lose it provision saying you have to use this by the end of the year or that money disappears, which is something that is in place with the FSA. With the HSA, that money is in this account until you decide to use it, whenever that may be. The HSA, like all tax-advantaged accounts, come with a hefty dose of rules set by the IRS as well as contribution limits. These contributions are generally tied to inflation and tend to increase throughout the years. For 2023, the limits for individuals are $3,850. For families, it's $7,750. And if you're 55 or older, you can do an additional $1,000 catch-up contribution. And these numbers are already slated to increase for 2024. Good news is that while there are contribution limits, there are no income limits, meaning you can contribute to these accounts no matter what your income is. Your employer may contribute to your HSA. They may contribute a set amount every single year, or it may be set up as a matching contribution. Think like a 401k where you would put a set amount in and they would match that portion. It really all depends on how your employer's plan is set up. But keep in mind, if your employer does make a contribution to your HSA, that does count towards the annual contribution limit. This account is the epitome of a tax-advantaged account. It's often said that this account is triple tax advantaged, as in the money you contribute on a pre-tax basis. Then, if you choose to invest this money once it's in this account, it gets to grow completely tax-free. Then, so long as you take this money out to pay for qualified medical expenses, it comes out completely tax-free. That means you never pay taxes on this money, and that's pretty hard to beat. Some people even make the argument that it's quadruple tax advantaged because you're contributing pre-tax dollars to this account. This actually lowers your taxable income for the year. Keep in mind, if you do use an HSA and you actually invest that money once it's in your HSA, this puts you in the extreme minority of people. According to Bankrate, only 9% of HSA users actually invest the money once it's in their HSA. In order to open an HSA, you have to be eligible for an HSA. And in order to qualify, there are a few parameters you have to meet. 1, you have to be covered under a high deductible health plan. 2, you have no other health coverage. And 3, you're not enrolled in Medicare. You also can't be claimed as a dependent on someone else's tax return if you want to open and fund your own HSA. Quite simply, if you don't meet these parameters, you're not eligible to open or contribute to an HSA. Enrollment in high deductible plans is actually on the rise, and much of this is attributed to the rising cost of healthcare. High deductible plans, as their name suggests, come with a higher deductible, which usually comes with a lower monthly premium. A quick note about adult children, because adult children are often covered on their parents' health insurance up to the age of 26. If you are covered by your parents' health plan, and it is a high deductible health plan, so long as you are not claimed as a dependent on either of their tax returns, you can open up and contribute to your own HSA if you want to be a super saver, and that way you can take advantage of the amazing benefits of these accounts. Recently, I did a video on my favorite investment account. It wasn't the HSA, and a lot of people were questioning, why wasn't the HSA my personal favorite investment account? And the answer is quite simply, I don't qualify for one, so I don't have one. My wonderful husband is the one who provides health insurance for our family. He's an active duty service member, and our insurance is phenomenal. Our monthly premium is $12.36. We have no copays, no deductibles ever. So by and large, our medical expenses are very, very negligible. So an HSA just isn't an option for our family. In order to retain the favorable tax treatment of this money, you would have to use it for qualified medical expenses. Those would be things like medical, dental, or vision copays, prescription eyewear and supplies, prescription medications, therapies, as well as lab tests, vaccines, some medical equipment. The IRS does have a full list on their website, but when in doubt, just ask. Generally, an HSA cannot be used to help cover your health insurance premiums, but there are a few situations in which it is allowed. Like when you're paying for a continuation of an employer-sponsored plan through COBRA, or if you're paying your health insurance premiums while receiving unemployment benefits. Conveniently, your HSA can be used to cover Medicare Parts B and D, as well as deductibles, premiums, and copays on Medicare Advantage. However, it cannot be used to cover the premiums on a Medigap policy, an insurance policy you would buy in the marketplace to help cover those gaps in your Medicare coverage. Your HSA can also be used to cover your long-term care premiums if you have a long-term care policy. Keep in mind there are limits on the amounts you can withdraw for long-term care insurance based on your age. And remember that you can use your HSA to cover medical expenses not just for yourself, but also your spouse or your dependents, even if they aren't covered on your high deductible health plan. There are some pretty hefty penalties if you make a non-qualified withdrawal from your HSA. Sure, you can access this money at any time, but if you make a withdrawal prior to the age of 65, not only will you have to pay ordinary income tax on this money, but the IRS is going to levy a 20% penalty. Once you hit 65 or later, or you become disabled, you can make withdrawals from this account without that IRS penalty, but if it is taken out for a non-qualified medical-related expense, you still will have to pay ordinary income tax on this money. Perhaps you might be wondering what qualifies as a high deductible health plan. As of 2023, a high deductible health plan is a plan with a minimum deductible of $1,500 for individuals or $3,000 for families. These plans generally max out with deductibles of $7,500 for individuals and $15,000 for families. Now, deciding whether or not a high deductible health plan is right for you depends on your personal situation. You might consider, how often do I or my family members go to the doctor? Are we anticipating a medical event this year? Perhaps a pregnancy? Are there any chronic conditions? Do you have the funds to cover your portion of the deductible? Things like that. So long as you are enrolled in a high deductible health plan, you can pair that with an HSA. If your employer is the one who offers the high deductible health plan, they may also be the one who offers an HSA. But if they don't offer an HSA, you can open one on your own. If you're going the route of opening your own account, there are many different companies you can do this with. You can simply research online. You could even call your insurance company to see if they have any recommendations. But keep in mind, if you are doing this on your own, there may be an initial cost to open up the account or ongoing monthly or annual fees, so just make sure to read the fine print. Also make sure if your plan is to invest the money within this account that you have investment options that appeal to you. How most people use their HSA is they contribute money to it and then they take money out to cover out-of-pocket medical expenses throughout the course of the year. Simple enough. But that is not how the 1% use their HSA. Remember, the money you put into an HSA can be invested. And remember, most people who have an HSA are not investing this money. You can think of the HSA and treat the HSA like any other investment account. But just because you put money into it doesn't mean it's invested. You actually have to select an investment vehicle, like an index fund or a mutual fund. And that is exactly what the wealthy do. They contribute pre-tax dollars to this account where they then invest it, where it gets to grow completely tax-free or tax-deferred, depending on what the ultimate use of this money is. But so long as it's taken out to cover qualified medical-related expenses, it is never taxed. Triple tax advantaged. The HSA, in a way, can serve as an additional retirement fund. Remember, any money taken out prior to the age of 65 and used for a non-qualified medical-related expense is going to be taxed as ordinary income and subject to a 20% IRS penalty. However, once you hit the age of 65, you can access these funds at any time, no penalty. So long as the money still comes out for a qualified medical-related expense, it comes out tax-free. But if you decide to take it out for non-qualified medical-related expenses, you just have to pay ordinary income tax on this money, meaning you just gave yourself an additional retirement fund. But unlike a traditional 401k, There are no required minimum distributions from an HSA. In a way, it's better than other retirement accounts because let's face it, we're all going to have medical related expenses in retirement, and having this bucket to draw on completely tax-free for those purposes is very powerful. If you can invest these amounts over an entire working career, that can end up making a very sizable bucket. That can absolutely help you with medical expenses in retirement or any other retirement expenses, really. It simply gives you another bucket to draw on. And for many people, medical related expenses can be significant. So this can absolutely help you foot that bill. If you're interested in seeing what your HSA could grow to over time, I will link a calculator down below for you to plug some numbers into. When it comes to your HSA, you certainly aren't limited to covering medical expenses that occurred within that year. If you have the means to do so, you can pay for all of your out-of-pocket medical related expenses, save the receipt, and then leave that money in your HSA, leave it invested, let it grow completely tax-free, and then at a later date, turn those receipts into your HSA for reimbursement. And by later, I mean a lot later. You could do this years and years and years down the road. So long as you save those receipts, there is no deadline for reimbursement. The reason some people do this is to allow this money time to have compound interest work its magic, and then they have a bigger pot to draw on. So in a way, years down the road, you can withdraw money from your HSA and use it to do whatever you want. Maybe you take a trip. So long as you have enough receipts from qualified medical related expenses, that money comes out tax-free. Do you have an HSA? Do you use it like an additional investment account? Let me know in the comments down below. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye.